Recording in progress.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If we can have everybody take their seats, please. Right. Thank you, everyone. Well, welcome to the Four Corners area. I am going to call this meeting to order at 3 p.m. And the next item is we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is right in front of us. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here on this afternoon, this beautiful afternoon here at Fort Lewis. So we have the review and approval of our agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to this agenda? And if not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I don't recall if this is the appropriate time to recuse myself from two items related to 6N and 6LL.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And okay, is there anyone else that needs to be recusal on any item? Those are on a actually, okay. All right, if none, I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Felt. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Director Johnson. Motion made in second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. So the next we have our meeting locations for our next meetings. Of course, our next meeting for November is November 19th and 20th. That will be in the Denver Mitchell area. For 2026, January meeting will be in Aurora. Our March and May meetings will be still need to be determined. Our July meeting, July 15th and 16th, will be in the Gunnison Basin. July 16th and 17th, along with our Finance Committee meeting in September 15th, will be in the Colorado Basin. And again, our November meeting will be in the Denver metro area. Next, we have the review and approval of our board minutes. Does anybody have any corrections for the July 2025 special meeting? Okay, how about, is there any corrections to the July 16th and 17th? Okay, hearing none, can I will entertain a motion to approve both of those two meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Vasquez. Do I hear a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Director Combs. Motion made in second. All those in favor say aye. Thank you. Okay, next we have our consent agenda. Are there any removals or to the consent agenda to move them to the regular agenda? If not, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items. So moved. Thank you, Director Hawes. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Director Combs. Motion made in second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next we have our financial matters. We have the construction fund and servants tax perpetual based fund.
Madam Chair, Kirk Russell, Finance Section Chief. A little bit odd situation. We have no new loans to present to the board at this particular meeting, which is the first time in my career. But I just needed to have a placeholder with the item that's in the agenda, and this board covered a majority of the financial conversation at the Finance Committee meeting. So this does not require any approval. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Otherwise, move things along.
Thank you. We only did that because we're in the Four Corners area. Is there any comments or questions? Okay, now we'll go ahead and move on to the Water Supply Fund Reserve Grant Fund for September 2025.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. For the record, Ben Wade presenting agenda item 5A. And in the wrong tab here. Sorry about that. For this round, on the June 1 deadline, we got 8 applications submitted. As always, these projects have been approved by their respective roundtables. Staff has recommended approval of all 8. I'll just have the one application today, 5A. 4 were just approved a couple of minutes ago on the agenda, the consent agenda, and Director Riss approved the other 3 direct report grants back on September 7th. The applicant for 5A is a Consolidated Mutual Water Company. They're a water provider on the western side of the Denver metro area, and they operate 4 reservoirs. Collectively, these 4 reservoirs lose approximately 900 acre feet annually to evaporation. But this is just an estimate. They have no direct measurements. So they'll be using WSRF funds to purchase and install eddy covariance sensors at all 4 reservoirs to measure the ET losses. And in addition, they'll use their existing photovoltaic pilot test system, which are the solar panels mounted on a floating structure on 2 of the reservoirs to gauge the potential evapotranspiration loss savings using the same eddy covariance methodology. And they'll use matching funds as well to design and permit a larger scale photovoltaic system. And at least one of the 4 reservoirs, their goal is significantly reducing their ET losses. So with that, available to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions? Okay, Director Sakata.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ben, I thought this was really interesting. Do you know if they're communicating with the Division of Water Resources as far as making sure that the measurements they're taking? Because eventually I'm assuming they're going to file and want to, not have to account for those evaporative losses, but.
Yeah, I think I was emailing Jared Roberts of the water company, and he mentioned they were working with DWR. And I can confirm that, and I can send you a follow-up email.
That'd be great, because I did visit with Dr. Perry Cabot. He's been using that eddy covariant tower a long time in the pastures, and he says it's a little trickier than you think. So
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? Okay. Director Johnson?
I'd just like to make a motion if I could for approval, staff recommendation.
Thank you, Director Johnson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Kimlin. Motion made a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our water plan grants. And how do we want to handle?
Maybe we can take them all in block except for the 2 where we've got a recusal, and we can either handle those first or last.
Okay. You want to do those first?
Sure, great.
Okay. Thank you, Director Wind.
And I'm actually going to give a summary first, if you want to wait a little. So I have about 10 minutes of background before we do the actual grants, but we can dive into those very first if that's better, whatever you all prefer. Okay. Okay, great. Well, I'm Janine Shaw, our grant section chief for the CWCB. And for those of you in the room, you probably saw me try to get up here like 3 times because I am so excited to share all of these wonderful grant recommendations with you all. So hopefully you all can hear me. So we have about 2 hours in total for this topic for water plan grants for the July 1st deadline. And I will kick us off for about 10 minutes with a little bit of background on the Water Plan Grant Program as a reminder, and then a summary of what we saw this most recent application cycle. And then we will dive into the individual applications. And before I get started, I really want to extend my gratitude to the staff and our partners who worked so hard on reviewing all of these applications. And we had a record number of applications to review, and the regional grant managers, the technical leads, CWCB leadership, our partners at DOLA, CPW, CDA, Division of Water Resources, and GOCO all helped provide feedback on these. So it was a huge effort and a team lift, and everybody really rose to the occasion. So thank you very much to those folks. So just to kick things off, and am I changing the slides or are... Okay, I can do it. All right. So just a reminder about the Water Plan Grant Program and some background on this. So the Water Plan has partner actions and agency actions. And the Water Plan Grant Program is a funding source for partner actions. And that really was to ensure that there was a mechanism to help move these things forward and move the goals of the Water Plan forward. In 2017 is when funds were first made available, and that was through one-time appropriations from the General Assembly. Then in 2019, we had sports betting legalized, and with the tax revenue going towards the Water Plan Grant Program. And that was up to $29 million was the Tabor cap on that. In 2024, a ballot measure went to voters to retain the revenue beyond $29 million, and voters overwhelmingly approved that. And so now we are able to retain all of the funds coming in from sports betting tax revenue. And I mentioned this earlier, but the revenue process is a 3-year cycle. So the first year, we, as a state, collect the revenue. Then the revenue gets appropriated in year 2, and then in year 3, it is available for grant making. The Water Plan Grant Program has certain things that are set in statute, and I just wanted to briefly remind folks of what those are. So it sets who can apply. It is a very broad, public entities, private entities, ditch companies can apply. It also sets the categories of the grant program. So and then finally, one of the things that I think you hear us talk about a lot is the preference given to multi-beneficial projects that are collaborative. So those are the things where we're really trying to do things differently and better. And so those are some of the things that are covered in statute. And just to give an overview of what we saw this round and a little bit of background too and reminders about the applications. So we have 2 application cycles each year. July 1st, those are the ones you are hearing recommendations for today. And then December 1st, and you will hear those recommendations in March. This July, we had 81 applications requesting about $39 million. We have about $37 million available for the entire year. So more requested this cycle than we have available for the entire year. Of that 37 million, 29.2 was new appropriations, and about 7.5 was carryover from last round. So that's how we got to that number. We did have 2 applicants withdraw. So there won't be a staff recommendation on those. We also had 2 applicants switch categories. And Director Vasquez, I believe you had asked about this previously. And so the 2 that switched categories went from the engagement and innovation category to the conservation and land use planning category. So otherwise, everything stayed where it was. And yeah, this is twice as many applications as we typically get. So we had 40 the last couple rounds, and again, 81 that staff reviewed. So it really was a big lift. So in terms of the review process and how we whittle this down, we first have to look at eligibility, then we look at competitiveness, and looking at those things like multi-benefit, collaboration, and then feasibility and readiness. So there are some things on here that seem like they're really good projects, but they're recommended for funding as submitted. Folks are able to come back and reapply. So this isn't a one and done, you didn't get funded, you can never apply again. So we do have and offer some conversations with folks afterwards if they want to talk through their application. And I did mention previously all of the partner feedback too. So we do request partner feedback from DOLA, CPW, DWR, CDA, and GOCO. It is staff recommendation that's coming forward, and that comes through 3 different rounds of review using the input and feedback from those agencies. So huge thank you to everybody there. And really, it is able to make sure that as a state, we're moving forward in the right direction, and something that the right hand is doing isn't going to harm somebody on the left hand.
We have one question.
Thank you. Is there a particular factor or factors that you contribute the drastic increase in grant applications to?
Thank you for that question. So it's not a trend yet, and so it's a little bit hard to tell. I think my best guess right now is twofold. One is potentially changes in federal funding and just the overall funding landscape, and our dollars, I think, are more I think folks might be like to come to our dollars first. And then the other thing is our regional grant managers and our tech leads have done so much outreach. So we track the outreach that our that our regional grant managers do. And that can include things like going to conferences or tabling or potential applicant meetings. And between December 1st and July 1st, they had 175 different engagement activities. So I think staff is doing great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So the other piece for the review process is the available funding and the category allocations. So some of you might remember, I'm sure it's a whirlwind at this point, but back in May, staff made a recommendation of how to allocate the overall $37 million across the different grant categories. And the purpose of doing that is really to make sure that the board has given some guidance and direction to staff so that we can make sure we're aligned with where we want to have these projects funded. For this first, I should say, so what went into that is the projects database for the basin roundtables, the engagement and that the regional grant managers had by category, as well as the previous awards. So it was a blend of those to come up with the recommendation by category. So for this first round, we wanted to try and stay within those target allocations. So we didn't dip from, say, ag into storage and supply. In this coming round, if we have funding left over in a category, we would then dip into that. So that's how we approach this. And I think we were able to fund some really amazing things. We are making recommendations for 56 awards totaling about $25 million. So it's very exciting. And then this next slide is a representation of the requests versus those target allocations that I was just talking about, and then the recommended awards. So you can see here the agricultural category, there was really high demand. We had about $14 million in requests. Oh, thank you.
We have one question. Oh,
Yep. Thank you. So we had about $14 million in demand, and we had about $9 million allocated. So we are awarding pretty much that whole bucket. But you'll see in some other areas, we're not awarding the full funding amount right now. There were projects that we didn't feel like were quite ready. And so we wanted to make sure to give an opportunity those folks can come back. We can get new applications that might move the water plan forward even further.
we have one question. Director Phelps?
Will, could you go back one slide, Ginny? What,
Nope. Yep.
I guess, so like with agriculture there,
Yeah.
what you're recommending from this first cycle, basically the same amount that was allocated. And that's the annual allocation target. So will that color your math in the second cycle?
Great question. Yes. So that is essentially saying based on the targets that you all set, there's really not money left for the second cycle. For ag. However, if folks still want to apply, we have $12 million total. And so if we don't have demand in one of the other categories, that's when we would be able to say, hey, we do have money that we can fund some of these ag projects. That is, I will say though, there are these what we call cardboard walls. And if the board wants us to take a different approach to that, that is certainly something that we can entertain.
Thanks. Yeah, because I think, I mean, target is, I guess, as good a word as any, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was a set allocation. It was just sort of a balancing of different needs, but that was also dependent on demand. So,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yes, I think one of the really tricky things with grant programs is that it is all relative and it depends on the demand, and you don't know what you're going to get, and then you are having to compare projects against each other. So yeah, it's tricky.
Maybe it's good to keep track of this though for the future, because we reset the targets a bit based on past demand. And if demand is colored by sort of the reality of what's available, then we might not, it'll moderate what the unmet demand is potentially, and could affect our allocations in the future, or our targets in the future, I should say. So that'll be something really good to keep track of. It's sort of an elusive number, yeah, I think, but an important one.
Agreed. Yes. And I will say that I think in these categories, the projects that really met the water plan grant guidelines, I think we were able to fund. So the ones that we weren't able to fund either weren't multi-beneficial, weren't collaborative, or weren't ready. So overall, I think we were able to fund the things that really met the intention.
Hey, are there any other comments or questions? Director Combs?
So you addressed it there with your last comment, but I just think we have to be careful. I appreciate your scrutiny of meeting the compliance of the water plan, right? What the intentions are. we also don't want to give the impression that we're shifting. And I'm pro ag, right? I mean, that's my thing, but we gotta be careful that we're not, it doesn't appear that we're freeing up money to fund more ag when we have set limits. And so I'd like to see some, I mean, it's not about trust. I believe you're looking at them correctly, but I do think we want to be very careful that we kind of document and have a lot of communication, especially if we're going to fold that excess into a higher demand. I think like Director Felt says, we do need to adjust our limits, obviously, if that's where the biggest push is going to be, but just internally, we make sure we cross the T's and dot the I's, that it doesn't look like we're reshuffling the deck regardless of the limits we've set. So,
Appreciate that.
Okay, are there any more comments or questions? None? Okay, thank you.
So the last slide I have is the geographic distribution of applications. And one of the things that I value so much about the Water Plan Grant Program and having our regional grant managers spread throughout the state is the level of engagement they're able to get across the state. And I think that is reflected here in the really great geographic distribution of applications and across categories. And one caveat is these are the project location coordinates as submitted by the applicant. So probably have to do a little bit more of quality control on those for in the long term, but for the purposes of this presentation, I do think it serves that. And then that is all I have for background and summary for what we saw. So it sounds like we will take the couple of items, and I'm trying to see which categories those are in. All right, Kevin Reedy, are you online?
I am online.
Great. I will turn it over to you. Get the slides there.
There we go. Great. I'll take it away. Good afternoon, board. Thanks for the accommodation for virtual. And by the way, in Denver here, we're getting some big thunder boomers right now. It's raining and thundering really loud. It about shook my windows. So first one, 6N, we'll jump into that one. Larimer County groundwater study. Recommended amount $300,000, total project amount $400,000, 75-25% match. And this is a really fascinating one. This is a really interesting one. They're looking at, based on work that came out of the Larimer County Water Master Plan in December 2024, they needed to identify more groundwater facets in their to study to address inconsistent water adequacy rules, review processes, and support informed development decisions as population growth drives development pressures into well drilling aquifers. So, well drilling requests. And so, what they're really looking at is really kind of mapping out groundwater study resources and folding that into their surface supply for water adequacy for new developments. And so they're really trying to create an overlay for groundwater across the county. As it's coming out of the water master plan. They want to get more information on this, and they want to kind of match that up with their surface supply and make sure that they're putting development in places that won't overtax their groundwater supplies, and where they can kind of figure out where best to put development in relation to surface and groundwater. So that's the short end of that. And they're looking at it over the long haul. And so I really like this idea of creating an overlay district of groundwater as well, in addition to the water resources that they're putting into their development process. And so it's really kind of ties back into everything we've been trying to do for the last 10 to 15 years on land use and water planning as well. And it's really based in a lot of really good extensive studies they've been doing water master planning as well as comprehensive planning in the county. And it's a good project, and it really scored pretty well across the board. So that's what I have for that one.
Okay, we have one question by Director Vasquez.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a question that you may not be positioned to answer, but perhaps you can get an answer for me. So when this kind of study is done on the hydrology, do they look at recharge rate? Are they able to see the rate at which this groundwater resource is recharged?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer. I would imagine that's part of it. I've got to say that that's probably part of it. They're looking at all that, but I can follow up for you on that. It's got to be part of it because it's got to be part of that whole equation. I'm sure they're looking at. I'm not a groundwater expert. I'll just throw that out there, right away. But I think that's got to be part of the whole calculus, and especially if you're looking over 15 to 30 years, that what they're talking about the next development, that's got to be part of the
Yeah,
equation.
I'm no expert either, which is why I'm asking you the question.
Anybody else who can answer that, go ahead. But I can find out though for you for sure from the applicant.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, is there any objection to us putting both of those two items into one vote, or do you want each one? Because they're two different categories. But they're two, you're okay with one vote? Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next item.
Good afternoon, Chris Sturm, CWCB staff, presenting on item 6LL. This is a application for restoration on the Cashlaputa River brought to us by the Northern Integrated Supply Project, Water Activity Enterprise. This is for design of stream restoration activities in a couple of locations on the Puta River. As a result of the NISP 2017 Fish and Wildlife Mitigation Enhancement Plan. This project will get to 90% design, as well as some of the permitting requirements. Pretty robust stakeholder involvement here. That was something that we looked at very closely during the review. CPW is a partner in this, as well as the Lower Puta River Steering Committee, which includes the Coalition for the Puta River Watershed, who's a very big player in this watershed.
Okay, are there any questions? Oh, Director Vasquez?
If I might, again, out of ignorance. So there was a court case where $1 million was set aside for environmental issues from NIST project. Is this tapping into that million or is this separate?
Director Vasquez, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're using it for match or not.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a vote for the two items. Director Felt?
I'd move approval of item N and item LL.
Thank you, Director Felt. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Director McLeod. Motion made in second. All those in favor? Oh, say aye. Yeah. All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. So, someone want to go get Director Wind?
Let me know when you're ready in there. I can't quite see if Director Wind is there.
Not yet. All right, I think we are getting settled. So I am going to kick it over to Nora Flynn, who is our agricultural technical specialist. And then we will go through each of the categories. We now have 38 left. So we're doing about 2 minutes per grant. But yeah, I will turn it over to you, Nora. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Nora Flynn, CWCB staff for the record. Thank you so much, Janine, for leading us through this process. You've been such a great leader, and thanks to everyone else on your team as well. I'll start with 6A and take a breath between each, and please jump in if there are questions. So 6A, the applicant is Mesa County for the Orchard Mesa Check Piping 38 Road Bike and Pedestrian Project in the Colorado River Basin. The requested amount is $1,786,736. This project is a unique multi-benefit project addressing agriculture and recreational infrastructure. This project will replace the existing open Orchard Mesa check with a pipe, which will allow for the paving above it. The Orchard Mesa check is a vital component of water management in the Grand Valley. It serves as a channel to convey water from the afterbay of Orchard Mesa's pumping and power plants back into the Colorado River upstream of the Grand Valley Diversion Dam. The piping will result in improved hydraulic efficiency, leading to water savings and enhancing the reliability of water delivery, which is mostly to agricultural users. And then on top of this, once it's piped, it will allow for the installation of a pedestrian path that will connect and improve safety on a popular section of the Fruit and Wine Byway. It's a popular route for agritourism connecting Palisade to the irrigated vineyards on East Orchard Mesa. Six B, the applicant is American Rivers for Frozen Assets, Rio Grande Innovative Water Management. The request is $199,761. This project is demonstrating the and studying winter sheet ice. It is what it sounds like. You create a sheet of ice in the winter when you flood irrigate onto a field. This is a historic practice that did decline in use and popularity, but it's making a resurgence. And American Rivers and local partners are studying this. They're going to look at it as a strategic groundwater recharge strategy that has multiple benefits. So in the springtime, when the ice melts, it provides a wetland-like habitat that can provide essential habitat for migratory birds. And also that early melt provides some extra soil moisture that can help with plant productivity in these native hay and cattle pastures. Colorado Parks and Wildlife is a partner. They'll be doing some demonstrations and studying at Russell Lake State Wildlife Area, in addition to several producers in the area also participating and trying out this new strategy. So the impact of winter sheet ice on the local water table is not well understood, and so this project will fill an important gap in our knowledge and in understanding how to better use winter sheet ice for those shared goals of water life habitat and boosting production on those pieces of land. Six C, the applicant is Center Conservation District for the Southern Colorado Wool Pellet Project in the Arkansas and Rio Grande Basin. The requested amount is $264,965. If this sounds familiar, it is because the board approved funding for a very similar project last round. There was a significant enough change of scope of work in that the geography of this project has changed significantly, that we requested the applicant come back with a new application that we could present to this board. So the main difference is that previously they were just looking in the Rio Grande Basin. Now this project is going to be in the Rio Grande Basin and in the lower Arkansas Basin. Similarly to the last time they were approved, they are going to look at creating wool pellets to be used as a soil amendment out of this locally sourced wool. And this project is overseen by the Southern Colorado Wool Pellet Project Advisory Group. It's a really grassroots organization that has been talking to us for several years, dreaming up a way to create a diversified income stream for the sheep farmers and also create better water resiliency with these wool pellets that might improve soil water dynamics and lead to some water savings. The project findings will also be disseminated through several education and outreach events that they have planned in both geographies. (6D) the applicant is the Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust for Rusk Ranch's Beckwith Parcel Conservation Easement Project. It's in the Upper Arkansas River Basin. The request is $250,000. This ranch is about 5 miles north of West Cliff at the base of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The property that they propose to conserve with this grant funding serves multiple purposes, including being a productive grass, hay, and livestock operation. It's also habitat for numerous wildlife species, including several designated Tier 1 species of greatest conservation need recognized by the Colorado State Wildlife Action Plan. The water rights associated to this ranch will be tied to the land to be able to continue to irrigate. And this ranch has been recognized by the community, as we saw in letters of support, for its historical significance and excellent opportunity to preserve a ranching legacy and character of the region. (6E), the applicant is Terrace Irrigation Company for tools for adaptive storage in the Alamosa River Basin. The grant request is $254,438. This reservoir holds water that irrigates approximately 44,000 acres in the valley below. And that also has water that benefits the estate wildlife area. And the reservoir also serves as year-round fish habitat and is a place of public recreational fishing. The reservoir handles various releases, including some in-stream flows from CWCB's in-stream flow program, and augmentation water for the town of Jasper. So there's two main parts to this project, looking at administrative flexibility and then also some structural flexibility with some infrastructure improvements they'd like to make. So the administrative flexibility is looking at analyzing the potential for existing downstream direct flow water rights to be exchanged via upstream reservoir storage. This would allow some retiming of the surface water to better serve agriculture and gives some farmers and ranchers who don't have any storage options a potential option to find some storage. And this would allow them to potentially decrease late season pumping. The second part of the project is looking at more of a structural flexibility options. So they want to design and engineer outlets, new outlet works, and an automated headgate that would allow them to handle lower flow releases, which would allow more flexibility in the types of releases they do for farmers and for in-stream flows, etc. So together, that analysis and the infrastructure would give them more flexibility and create opportunities for greater drought resilience. Six F is the Arkansas Groundwater Reservoir Association, also known as AGRA. For the West Pueblo Bank stabilization in the lower Arkansas Basin. The request is $246,055. AGRA is in close collaboration with Colorado Parks and Wildlife on this project. The problem is that there's a section of the riverbank that is highly eroded, and that section of erosion is encroaching upon the reservoir that AGRA is constructing currently. That reservoir serves multiple users and mostly augmentation water for agricultural water users. The erosion that's happening is getting so close to the reservoir that it is at risk of causing a breach on the reservoir, which would have a sort of catastrophic impact on the river and with that reservoir construction project. So what they need to do to fix this is to do some realignment of the bank and stabilize it, and they're going to put in a new structure within the river to help guide flow of the river away from that bank. So there's this public safety issue, and also Colorado Parks and Wildlife is invested in this issue because it's a popular fishing access area as well. That's all I have to say on that one. Six G, the applicant is Colorado Open Lands for the Rio Grande Cooperative Project Phase 2. The request is $288,208.68. In Phase 1 of this project, which CWCB funded, the team took steps to develop a water market tool that the Valley can use to help sustain the agricultural economy while working to replace approximately 16,000 acre-feet of stream depletions. So in Phase 1, they created some of the initial components that will go into this water market tool, like looking at surface water and groundwater. And in Phase 2, they are going to more fully develop, incorporate water rights accounting and a system for trading itself into the platform. This tool is going to be created and controlled by the Rio Grande Water Conservation District. When it's created, the goal is that it will really save a lot of time and resources that the district staff use when they're evaluating water that becomes available. The folks involved in this project are the Rio Grande Water Conservation District, the San Luis Valley Water Conservancy District, members of the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable, and local nonprofit entities. So this collaborative group is really all working together to see if they can find a more efficient way of acquiring water to serve the purpose of preserving irrigated ag, but also meeting their groundwater sustainability goals. Six H, the applicant is Trout Unlimited for the Gunnison Basin RCPP, which stands for Regional Conservation Partnership Program. It's a voluntary conservation program funded by the USDA NRCS. The request is $800,466. This project includes the construction of sites that have been pre-identified and includes funding for planning and development of additional sites. This is a Phase 2 or continuation of of a project that Trout Unlimited has been already leading with some CWCB funding and funding from the RCPP program. These projects are all relatively small restoration projects that improve the riparian habitat and reduce erosion and improve the flow of water, and also improve the diversion of water for irrigation with new modernized structures. So in this area, this is really the best way for agricultural producers to gain the control they need to be able to irrigate efficiently, and gives them opportunities to leave water in the river as well. Trout Unlimited, as I said, led a phase 1 of this project. They've really gained trust with producers in the area, and demand for this type of work has grown. So this work is in response to that demand. And all of these small projects together in a region, which is the goal of RCPP type projects, bundled in a region, they improve, the regional ability to improve management and stewardship of water.
We have a question from Director Haas.
Thank you so much for this. On this one, how is RCPP being affected by the federal funding freezes? And is there any, will this project still be able to go forward if that funding is not available?
Yes, thank you. I am not a spokesperson for them, so take this with a grain of salt. But what I have heard is that in the proposed Farm Bill language, RCPP will be funded at the same level as it has historically.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
J, the applicant is the Western Slope Conservation Center for Farmers Ditch Improvement Project in the Gunnison Basin. The request is $1,822,853. This is a multi-benefit diversion improvement project. So right now, the diversion check dam is made up of timber and rock and concrete supported in a boulder field that has to be annually managed to divert water from the river. It's pretty hazardous to the people doing that work, to boaters trying to use the river, because there's a lot of debris in the river. During late season, the diversion diverts almost all of the river's water for a 0.3 mile section, which is impassable then for aquatic species. So when they improve this farmer's ditch diversion, we will have improved diversion for agricultural users, we will have a safer river for boaters, and we will have enhanced ecosystem for the aquatic species. $6K, the applicant is Colorado West Land Trust. Risk to Resilience, a new model for farm and water security in the Gunnison River Basin. The request is $1,412,850. This project builds on the buy, protect, sell concept with conservation easements that CWCB has funded in the South exploration of in the South Platte Basin. This Colorado West Land Trust is collaborating with those folks that we funded in the South Platte Basin working on this, which is Colorado Open Lands. So the buy, protect, sell model involves a land trust using grant and philanthropic dollars to buy lands that are under pressure for development, protect those lands with conservation easements, and then when the land has depreciated value because of the restriction on development, the desire is to sell that land back to a new and beginning farmer. This model still needs investigation. And so this grant helps support the exploration of this as a model for conservation easements moving forward. An important aspect of these conservation easements is that they're utilizing innovative water encumbrance language that permanently ties the water rights to the land, so keeps that asset with the farming operation, but it also puts in some flexibility of how that water can be used in the future. So the encumbrance language would include something along the lines of allowing for a 3-in-10 water sharing agreement. That type of innovation in conservation easements has come around with land trusts and farmers realizing that there is missed economic opportunity when you have to use water solely for irrigation into the future. And so this type of novel language that they're putting in conservation easements keeps that asset of water with the land, but allows some flexibility so that a future farmer could glean some diversified income from a temporary leasing arrangement. So that's what they plan to do here. And the land in particular involved in this is 450 acres total, 350 of which are irrigated acres. These properties are along the river corridor, have significant riparian habitat. That's all I have on that one.
All right, thank you. Are
Wait.
there any, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I have
Sorry.
one
Oh.
more. Sorry. This is my last one. Thank you. 6L. The applicant is Colorado State University for the Colorado Open Soil Moisture Project. This is a statewide project. The request is $511,237. Within CSU, the group leading this is the Integrated Rocky Mountain Region Innovation Center for Healthy Soils. They call themselves Enriches. And it's a collaboration with the Colorado Climate Center and the CSU Computer Science Department. This project has multiple prongs. One is supporting the Quench platform. Another is expanding soil moisture infrastructure around the state. And another is citizen science engagement. So the Quench platform is an open knowledge platform that combines soil moisture data from disparate networks across the state. Folks might be familiar with SNOTEL or COAGMET. Quench pulls data from those existing networks into one page where you can analyze and visualize soil moisture data all in one spot. And so the goal is really to make it possible to look at data from all of those different networks and make water management decisions informed by soil moisture. So that's one aspect I mentioned. They also want to install some more soil moisture monitoring equipment. They're going to do that in at least 15 locations where there's critical gaps on the ground. And they're also going to bolster, this online platform and this in the field work with outreach with the U.S. Drought Monitor, which I think most folks know that the Drought Monitor is this critical source of information that we look to for understanding drought and it's tied to millions of dollars in disaster relief funding. So the goal is really to incorporate more informed soil moisture data into the U.S. Drought Monitor. And they'll also do outreach with COCORA's, the popular citizen science hail, rain, and snow network. That's it from me. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. What about 6I?
Oh, yes, I have that. I skipped over it. 6I, the applicant is also Colorado State University, for community-driven water evaluation in the Yampa Valley. The request is $869,047.47 for a 5-year project. The group within CSU that's leading this is the Agriculture Water Quality Program. The Agriculture Water Quality Program is housed at CSU and funded by largely by the Colorado Department of Agriculture, and they also work closely with the Colorado Department of Health and Environment non-point source pollution groups. So they are very plugged in with those state partners that we have as well. This research project is responding to a desire voiced by local irrigators to better understand how high elevation flood irrigated systems impact water quality. So they have done preliminary outreach and identified producers who want to participate in exploring how best management practices when implement impact water quality. And this is something that's very difficult to measure. The Agriculture Water Quality Program at CSU, they are experts in this. They have installed these automated samplers at these flood irrigated fields to sample at rain events and irrigation events the runoff coming off from those fields. And so they're going to install those on these fields, and the education component is a large part of this project, working closely with the producers to inform the research strategy and come up with a plan for studying and monitoring this long term. Sorry, I missed that.
Thank you. So are there any individuals online or in the room that grant application folks that would like to speak to any of these that have been presented? You can come up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Crane. I'm representing the 100 shareholders of the Farmer's Ditch. We really want to express our gratitude to the staff and to the board for being as progressively minded as they are and looking at sustainable and resilient agriculture in the North Fork Valley and throughout the state, really. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I've been looking at rivers in Colorado. I've been a part of this community for 30 years, and the progression of this board and the staff has been phenomenal in the last 30 years. I see a lot of I see a lot of rivers wherever I go, and recently I've been pretty much all over the planet looking at different rivers, and it's really impressive of what the state of Colorado is doing. And I want to thank the board for especially the staff for all of their work. 30 years ago, we were looking at the water buffalo community and things like that. And now we're looking at all these multiple benefits. And, when I look around other states and other countries and stuff like that, what they do to their rivers is abominable. And I think that what this organization is doing is really leading the way with other organizations and other states. And I just want to give you my gratitude for all of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Director Wind?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious from a staff's perspective, there's two of these grants related to conservation easement. Is that a growing trend? I was curious if there's been historically conservation easements of that magnitude. I certainly support it. I was curious kind of how they come about. Do you have more competition for others? Is it a spillover from maybe GOCO conservation easements that are challenged in funding all the needs out there?
Nora, do you want to take that one or do you want me to take it?
I'll just say that we do have a very nice conservation easement policy that allows us to evaluate conservation easements and fund them if we think they help progress the water plan. And I've only evaluated a small handful of them since I started, but in the outreach we've been doing, we're getting more and more interest. Along with that, we're talking to GOCO more and more. So I do believe we're well aligned with GOCO and got feedback from them on these particular projects this time around, and we'll definitely continue to do that going forward. Janine?
Thank you, Nora. Yeah, I think prior to, I believe it's policy 24, which is one of the ones we can certainly review in the coming finance committee meetings. We had done some conservation easements, but they definitely weren't, like having 2 in one cycle, I think is a lot more than we typically have had.
Okay, are there any comments or questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nora, I probably misheard, but on I thought I heard you say 869, but it looks like staff's recommendation is 879,000. Is the recommendation 879,000, 47?
To defer to Janine, what is the real number?
Let me pull that up.
Whatever I said was probably wrong. What I have in my notes and what's on your screen are the same.
I have 879, 47, 47.
Thanks, and sorry if I just misheard that.
Nope, fine.
Okay, any more questions, comments? Okay, I would like to go ahead and entertain a vote for the agriculture category. Minus N? No, it's what's left. Yeah. Director Cameron? Is that? Motion made by Director Cameron, second by Director Combs. All those is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, we will go on to the conservation and land use planning category. And so we will bring Kevin Reedy back online.
Hello again. Kevin Reedy, CWC staff for the record. Thanks for having me again remote. So we've got 6M coming up, City of Loveland, the advanced metering infrastructure metering installation. And this is for $2.2 million. City of Loveland is going through their whole system and shifting over to advanced metering infrastructure. Really quick thing on that, you've got manual metering, which you have to go out and basically read in person. You've got remote sensing kind of metering that you can drive by and read those meters. Then you've got advanced metering infrastructure, which it relays through fixed bases, and so it's a Wi-Fi, a radio signal type of system, and so they're revamping their whole system for this. And the benefits of this is that you can get it down to to the minute reading, depending on what you get, what kind of system you're putting up there. But you can get real-time data basically back to your utility. and it really does work well on leak issues, especially. But these folks, they're going through and looking at this from obviously a leak detection and system, but also for a public education and water conservation lens as well. And so City of Loveland has been a really great participant in our Colorado Water Loss Initiative. And so I love this project because it is branching from water loss, in their system to customer education and customer conservation as well. And so they've, gone through and they've been really great at doing water loss audits every year, participating in our initiative, doing, taking advantage of some of the technical assistance, doing actually leak detection out in their system. So this is really well backed up with what they've been working on in their water loss audits, and what they're showing what they need to prioritize and work on. So this really lines up well with that. It lines up well with our water plan as well, looking at water loss control and management, advancing that. And they were looking at about 1,380 acre feet of demand reduction by doing this project. And from what I gather from their application, they're basically saying that this is a pretty conservative number. They're using some estimates. Basically, studies show from 10 to 30% reduction in demand by doing a system like this full-fledged, like they are doing. And so I'm glad they're erring on the more conservative side, but even with that, it really comes out to be a very cost-effective program. It's going to be really cheap for the water they're saving on this side. And also, one of the facts that they're showing is that they're going to be reducing leak response for their customers from 30 days, which basically comes after you get your bill and you've seen the damage done. It's a long time, to 8 to 48 hour. So 30 days, a month, to about 8 to 48 hours to basically contact their customers. So really enhances water efficiency, reduces waste, and empowers their customers through smarter monitoring and conservation technologies. And it's all very well backed up with all the water loss control and management they're doing. Also, it's going to be saving, real water, but also reducing their revenue drain by getting these meters to be reading correctly, where a lot of these meters are probably costing them a lot more money than what they're sending out. They're, the meter's under reading, and so it's saying, hey, this meter's saying it's delivering 10 gallons when actually they're delivering 12 to 15 gallons. And so they're going to get some revenue back on that too. So good, solid project. Any questions on that one? Okay. I'll skip over Larimer County since we already hit that one. Next on to Eagle County Conservation District Beyond Lawn Phase 2. Eagle County Conservation District came in for a grant a couple years ago to kind of pilot and start up a landscape transformation project and irrigation efficiency project for a lot of their customers in the towns and jurisdictions in their boundaries. It was overwhelmingly a huge success, and so they really wanted to capitalize on that and kind of learn from their first phase, which was like I said, very 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 well sought after. I mean, they were so busy that it's a good sign. And so this next time around, they're going to try to kind of expand a lot of things and increase their offerings with this thing. But I'll highlight a couple of these. Where they want to really increase the regional network of trained professionals, such as contractors, designers, irrigation specialists, who support this kind of water efficient landscaping. They want to engage in land use planning and new development discussions to integrate water conservation principles into early design phases with their municipal partners, and also kind of reduce those non-functional turf installations, which is happening right now because of the legislation that passed a few years ago. And so they're really, taking to heart that they've got to be changing these landscape codes up front as well. So it's not going to be all about ripping out turf. It's going to be about changing those landscape codes. Offering consultation and guidance to neighboring communities, develop their own landscape transformation initiatives, which is great. That, kind of, knocks on those knock-on effects that we want to see happen from these investments in these grants. And also, kind of really increase those regional collaboration across Western Colorado. We'll expand the education outreach efforts to engage all Eagle County residents with really looking at historically underserved populations and Spanish-speaking communities. They want to really focus on that this time. And then also really going after and looking at HOAs. You know, everywhere we talk about this stuff, you know, HOAs are sometimes can be a really big impediment. Sometimes they can be really champions on this side. And so they really want to engage those folks and financial technical assistance with those HOAs and really kind of get some higher impact landscapes changed out, because we know a lot of these HOAs have large common areas that nobody really uses for anything but mowing. So they really want to go after that. So they've been a really solid partner on these projects so far, and they're really trying to expand this and spread that. And I think it's a good thing for that part of the West Slope to be addressing these issues. So $346,000 and $18.90. And if anybody has any questions, I'll pause for a sec.
Any questions? Hearing none.
Okay, moving on to 6P, Steamboat Springs Smart Irrigation Central Control System, Phase 3. This is Steamboat Springs started on this a couple of years ago, where they wanted to really go after their parks and green spaces and open spaces in town and really become more efficient. And so they've been installing central controllers and efficient technology in these parks, doing some landscape transformation as well, and really, kind of saying, hey, listen, we can still irrigate these things, but we can do it in a much more efficient way. We don't have to be sending the water to these parks, in the middle of August as much as we have been, because that's when the Yampa is not looking so good. And so they're finally coming into this last phase of this, and they're really doing all these central control, central scheduling for irrigation. They've got a much better handle on it than they did before. They're reducing the vehicle miles driven and greenhouse gas emissions by decreasing vehicle trips to the sites because they can do it remotely. They're really big on enhancing the drought resiliency of these open spaces and green spaces in their community, and they think they're seeing a big change in that as well through these phases. They're going to be hitting 12 additional areas in the community, which is equals about 6 acre-feet per year of demand reduction, which may not sound like a lot to some folks, but I think for them it's a big change. And if they don't have to irrigate 6 extra acre-feet in these parks, that's a good thing. And they're looking at multiple benefit for other river users as well. So the recommended amount is $250,000. I'll pause for a sec. Okay, Fort Lupton 6Q, Comprehensive Water Strategy Plan. This is a really cool project. It really ties in a lot with what we're talking about in the water plan, what we've been talking about a long time about more integrated water planning. They really want to look at water conservation and supply and storage options obviously in this thing. And it's a small town, but as you know, there's a lot of complex things that can happen even in a small town with their water situation. So they want to try to bring all these things together to look at it from one lens. And they've talked about one water in their planning document as well in their application. But they had these narrow standalone plans that they want to try to unify and bring together. And so they're looking at all that, and they're really going to be concentrating on conservation and drought planning specifically, and some raw water system discussion as well. So they want to bring together all this stuff: water supply, storage, reuse, conservation opportunities, challenges, and projected future needs. Look at, analyze all the data, and then, cultivate the relationships with their project partners, their city residents, and technical advisors, and really bring this out to the public and talk to them, their public, through these activities, so they're involved. And looking at synthesizing water conservation and drought resilience. That's really a lot of what we've been talking about internally in our water supply planning section as well, and bringing those ideas together a little more cohesively. We know they're different things, but they can be interacting much more closely together. So it's a pretty solid plan $258,625 for that. And I'll pause for that one. Okay. Moving on to the final one. Last but
I
not
have
least,
one question.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, if you look at that, then the numbers are wrong on the sheet that we have. It's got a total project cost of 358 and a request of 430,000, which is greater
Got
than
it.
the project. It looks like the actual recommended amount is correct, but the rest of that's off.
Yeah,
Kevin, do you-
we it was adjusted down as we talked to them, and so you might have an old number. Apologize for that. It was those numbers that you were talking about originally, and now we've got a recommended amount of 258,625 with a total project of 358,625. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
All right.
We talked them through that a little bit. Their drought and conservation plans were a little on the high side compared to what we normally see. So we really talked them through that. So maybe that just didn't translate to what you have in front of you.
I think too, Kevin, if I can chime in here, is they had some tasks that we actually were not able to fund because they already completed them. And so the way our grant program works is we can't spend money on things before they're under a grant contract. So it's technically a partial funding recommendation, but we are recommending full funding for the things that are actually eligible.
Okay. Great. And finally, Sonoran Institute Growing Water Smart. You know, you guys are familiar with this project, and we want to have them come back in again for this. It's been really successful. You know, they're looking at doing workshops, and specifically this round is going to be looking at the Denver metro area, since we've done some spotty parts of that, but Denver Water has been really engaged in this round, talking to Sonoran Institute about looking at Denver Water and surrounding areas especially. And so, you know, we can reach a lot of folks through this round of workshops. But it's where, you know, I'll remind you guys that where you bring water planners and land use planners and elected officials together for a couple days, and you hammer out a water action plan, basically, of how you're going to integrate water into land use planning. We've had a lot of great success with this across the state, and so we want to keep on funding this. Part of this is looking at providing some technical assistance grants, as well as some of the things that come out of that, out of the workshop, and how that goes. And then finally, though, the more important part of this whole grant application, I think, is that we really wanted them to do, you know, kind of get into an impact assessment to date of what's gone on. And so what they're going to do is they're going to look at the 27 northern water communities that have come through already, and look at, you know, do interviews and do memos and really figure out what's been happening in those communities, and come out with a report. You know, basically, it's really an evaluation of what the project's been doing so far, which I think is needed for sure. And then, you know, using that as a model to evaluate the rest of the program. They wanted to kind of look at this first, and as kind of a microcosm of the northern water communities, and then go through that, and then hopefully then figure out, maybe change up the program, maybe change how things are done, or at least catalog of what has happened and what's occurring in these local communities a little bit more, in a more detailed manner than we have so far. And I just want to say that, out of the 22 applications we got in this category total, I think 10 or 11 were Growing Water Smart alumni who have come back in and asking for grants for projects funds that were either started in the program or have been spurred from the workshops they went through. And I know like 4 out of the 6 on this list alone, just in this agenda, are Growing Water Smart alumni. So it really does work really well. It brings people through, and it really gets some action going at the local level. So the amount for this one should be correct: $370,071.24. And I think I'm done from there.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No comments. Is there anyone online or in the room that is a grantee or?
Looks like we have a couple Sonoran folks on the line. I can see them, their faces popped up.
Did anybody want to make a comment?
Sure, this is Mike Zellner from the Sonoran Institute. I just want to say we really do value the partnership with the Colorado Water Conservation Board and appreciate very much the consideration of this support. Meryl, do you have anything to add?
No, that was great, Mike. Just here to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments for them? No? Does anybody else want to make any comments or questions about the grants? Okay, I will entertain a motion, or yes, I will entertain a motion for the conservation and land use planning section category.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Hawes. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Director Johnson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. I will turn it over now to Ben Wade for the engagement and innovation category.
Ben Wade, CWCB staff, presenting items 6S through V. Special shout out to Kirk, who is going to go feed my parking meter. I wish the college would have shown grace for the funding we've given in the past, but also this way he doesn't throw a flag on my presentation. Started with 6S. The applicant is a Colorado Rio Grande Restoration Foundation. For the new board members, this board awarded a water plant grant for the rye resurgency project back in 2023 that helps incentivize producers to plant rye. That gives the farmers just another option to help reduce their groundwater use, prevent erosion, and improve the soil health. And so if you fast forward 2 years later, it's been very successful enough for the foundation to apply for grant funds to produce a 30-minute documentary that showcases the successes, how producers are integrating this rye into their crop rotations to recover aquifers. It's going to just talk about just the emerging market developments and then link how their water management as producers is very important to wildlife conservation. After the film's release, they're going to launch an educational campaign to share the film at various film festivals, schools, media partners such as Colorado PBS. So our grant dollars will go to be used for the film production as well as the educational campaign. And I can pause for any questions the board may have.
Dr. Haas?
I'm always interested in these projects of how we can do crop switching that can have these kind of benefits and diversify markets for farmers. Is there, is rye something that can be applied other parts of Colorado? And how did they deal with the market? Is there someone that's there creating the market on the other side to make sure that the rye can be sold and used appropriately?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to call a lifeline. Is Laura here? Laura. Laura's been very much working with our.
Yeah, sure. Laura Span, CWCB staff. Great question. So I just Ben's back up while Kirk's out at his parking meter. I'm also the grant contract manager for the Rye Resurgence Project Phase 1. And so a lot of the vision around that effort is exactly what you're pointing to is, okay, really oftentimes the risk involved with these crops is needing a market for it, right? And so one way our program can support farmers in exploring low water crops is to help them in developing that market. So this particular project looks at not just developing the producer base, but then the infrastructure locally in the San Luis Valley, and then identifying bakers, distillers, other end users. And that would then be able to sell it to consumers. And they've been really successful so far in building that, and have actually, their initial grant, they came forward for 400, I think their goal was 400 acres of rye, and they had 1,200 planted. So it's been a successful model. I think there's also been some lessons learned. So we may see a phase 2 request coming to you in a future cycle to look more. And I would say, Director Combs, if you have anything to add there, please do.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, this whole thing, the genesis of it was market driven. How do we develop a market? And then the farmers will produce the low water use crops. But it takes the risk off the farmer, because it's easy to say change your crop. But if you can't sell it, if you can't market it, you don't know how to grow it, you don't have anywhere to go with it, it doesn't do so. The sustainability component, it's a slower growing process, but I think it's by far a better. And like I said, there's a lot of success. And so I think this film is going to highlight that and reach out to other users of rye to keep building the market. So then producers will shift from your barley, your wheat, your oats to rye, which it's a funny crop because you can't overwater it. It won't make any more. Barley, wheat, rye, if I add fertilizer and a lot more water, I get a lot more yield. Rye is a funky little crop that only produces what it produces. And so it limits the water use just by its own nature. So they're doing it right by marketing it first.
All right, is there any other question? Go ahead.
I appreciate the discussion about markets. Thank you, Laura and Director Combs. And I'll just say, as a consumer, keep your eye out, because I'm seeing it hitting the market. Just in the last month, I've had whiskey with San Luis Valley rye. I've had ice cream with rye shortbread cookies in it, made with rye resurgence rye. So it's out there.
Are there any other comments or questions? Nope. All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gotta put my eyes on here for next application is 6T. This is an application from Adams State University, which is the only four-year institution in the San Luis Valley. 45% of those students are first-generation college students, and at least 25% of the student population identifies as Hispanic or Latino. Back in year 2, when Hector was a pup, year 2 of the Water Plant Grant Program, they got a grant to create a water studies minor and also help to host a State of the Basin symposium. But unfortunately, their momentum's just stalled out because of COVID, and also they had a vacancy at the director position of the Salazar Center. But now they have a new director who has a lot of great ideas, and they came in to get funding to support a 3-year education and community engagement program. And they are going to target students as well as community members and water professionals in this next step. They're going to enhance our water curriculum for the minor. They're going to offer, not only offer, but help cover the cost of student internships within local water organizations. And grant funds will also help fund project assistant salaries as well as speaker fees for future community events that they'll host. And matching funds from the university will also go to cover student and community scholarships as well for more education. So I'll pause again for any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions? Director Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to speak in support of this. Getting to know Paul Formisano, he's just done an amazing job there. I'd recommend everybody sign up for his newsletter because they're putting on some great, amazing events. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Right, thank you.
All right, thank you. 6U is an application from the Colorado State University. The university's water center seeking grant funding for their South Platte Salinity Stakeholder Group to support the final phase of development for the future of that group and its mission. And so they'll use grant funds to just help identify and prioritize strategies to further address salinity issues, enhance their outreach and communication and data management. And so their ultimate goal is to make this a self-sustaining group just with a clear vision and goals to continue addressing the issues in the basin. That's kind of a short and sweet, quick summary, but I'll pause to answer any questions the board may have on this one.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Finally, 6V is an application from Blue Elements. They have a watershed stewards program, and it aims to recruit and retain skilled workforce for various watershed projects for AmeriCorps members who serve organizations within the Arkansas, Rio Grande, Gunnison, and Southwest basins. They do have a current water plan grant, and this proposal will build off that. They will be expanding needed support for a larger group of members. The goal is to better retain and provide more impact on the ground for these projects. So they'll be including some technical training, which is very much needed, and provide a housing allowance for the AmeriCorps members, and support recruitment training for incoming water professionals over the next 3-year period. And with that, I'll answer any questions the board has.
Any questions? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any grantee application holders in the room or online that would like to speak to any of the grants that we just heard about? Paul, please. go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank the CWCB staff and board for considering our proposal, and thanks, Robert, for the kind words. As you know, Adams State's an anchor institution here in the San Luis Valley, so your potential investment in our water programming and the growth of the Salazar Center goes a long way to moving things along for students in the community here. So just thank you again for that consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So Heather?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Hey, guys, it's Heather Dutton with the San Luis Valley Water Conservancy District. I'm also the co-founder of the Rye Resurgence Project. And so Director Hawes, I'd love to visit with you more about it tomorrow, and really appreciate your questions and the conversation that was had. And I'm here on behalf of Lindsay with Sandhill Productions, who's working on this film. And we just really appreciate the opportunity to tell the story of the Rye Resurgence Project, and within the lens of, larger conversations around Colorado. That is where we all are working to keep agriculture sustainable. And as our communities wrestle with supporting our economies with less water, we believe that the Rye Resurgence Project is an example, but not the only one, but just a great example of a community working to do that. And so we hope to highlight this success story, but also shine a light on farmers and their communities working to be creative around the state. So just really appreciate you guys with the great questions and the consideration, and for supporting this kind of innovative work. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks in advance for buckling up for 3 days. I seriously just want to appreciate you guys, and thanks to the board and staff.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion for the energy and innovation category. Thank you, Director Combs. And Director Vasquez made the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
And I do have one correction from an earlier statement. The 2 grants that change categories from engagement and innovation, one went to conservation and land use planning, and one went to watershed health and recreation. So I just wanted to correct that. And then moving on, I will turn it over to Matt Stearns for storage and supply.
Good afternoon, board. Matt Stearns from the CWCB Finance section. And I'll be presenting on the storage and supply category here today. Just real quick, I do want to give a big shout out to Janine and the rest of the water plan grant staff for all the hard work and dedication and attention to detail that they've provided over the past couple of months. This program has grown exponentially in complications, and as a tech lead, we just couldn't do it without their support. So just really want to say thank you to all of them for their good work. Okay, kicking it off. The first one that I have up is agenda item 6W for the Lower Latham Reservoir Company. It's the Jurgens Reservoir Ancillary Facility Design and Construction Project. As you heard Zach explain earlier in the Finance Committee presentation, the board approved a loan for this project earlier in the year, including a motion to add it to the 2026 projects bill for a loan increase up to the total project cost. I point that out because I want to note that this grant is essentially going to reduce the loan amount that they are going to need from us, barring any increase in project costs. But we in the loan program, that's what we want. We want to fund good projects and have them funded economically. And so this is a great example of that. And so just really support it for an agricultural reservoir company in the South Platte Basin. I also do want to note that we did work with the applicant to reduce the overall scope. The reason we did this was that some of the work that they were doing, the slurry wall that Zach was talking about earlier, that started earlier this summer and will likely be completed by the time the grant contract could be executed. So we did work with them to reduce that scope and essentially limited the grant to solely the inflow outflow infrastructure as opposed to the slurry wall. Overall, once it's complete though, the reservoir will create around 2,500 feet of new storage and help the company maximize its operations. So with that, staff is recommending a partial funding of a reduced scope for $1.5 million.
Are there any questions on this grant application? Hearing none.
Okay, next up, 6X. This is for the town of Debec, their secondary raw water source well project. The town of Debec is located adjacent to the Colorado River, downstream of Glenwood Canyon. Currently, the town's sole supply of water comes from the Colorado River, leaving the town susceptible to raw water quality issues, such as runoff from the burn scars that occurred a couple of years ago, among other things. In an effort to become a more resilient community, the town is looking to add a secondary water supply source that can be used in times when the river's water quality is below the town's ability to treat it. And so this project will help the community design, permit, and construct a new municipal well and connect it to the existing treatment plant, providing an estimated 100 acre-feet of new supply. Staff recommends full funding of the request for $235,967.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, hearing none.
Okay, next up, agenda item 6Y, City of Canyon City, planning for the John Griffith Park Reservoir, which is another municipal resiliency project. So the city is exploring a multi-beneficial project to create approximately 500 acre-feet of new storage that can be used as an emergency water supply, thereby increasing the city's storage capacity from 7 days to 24 days of municipal use. The project is currently envisioned will also work to restore disconnected floodplain, create new wetlands, and enhance recreational opportunities in the area. This grant will provide funding for the city to begin analyzing the feasibility of the project, focusing on site suitability, including a phase 1 environmental site assessment, coordinating with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the U.S. Army Corps, the Division of Water Resources, and the community as a whole. Primarily, it will develop a preliminary design to understand required permitting and develop a construction cost estimate. So staff is recommending full funding of the request for $406,875.
Okay, are there any questions on this one? Hearing none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up is the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District for the Bolts Lake Design Development Progress Drawings. The project continues the work of a previous water plan grant by taking the results of the preliminary design report to the next stage. Out of the previous work, the district identified two key changes to the project. First, the new enlarged reservoir will need to be lined to mitigate for the permeable soils underlying the proposed reservoir. And second, the diversion structure on the Eagle River will need to be a pump station instead of a gravity-fed ditch system. And that's really due to the high cost of that as well as the environmental impact of that option. This grant will help the district to prepare design development progress drawings and project specifications in order to secure a U.S. Army Corps 404 permit for the Eagle River diversion. It will also be used to bid for and select a CMGC construction manager to oversee the design build delivery method. The reservoir is expected to create 1,200 acre feet of new storage for augmentation purposes in the Colorado Basin. And so staff is recommending full funding for $776,390.
Okay, are there any questions on this one? Hearing none.
Okay. And lastly, we have agenda item 6AA, a request from the South Metro Water Supply Authority. This request is the next step for a previous water plan grant to develop an aquifer storage and recovery system, also called an ASR system, in the South Denver metro area. The authority is made up of 14 water providers that are heavily dependent on groundwater supplies that are non-renewable, but are attempting to shift to renewable surface water supplies. Those supplies would be pumped into the groundwater aquifer when they are available and then withdrawn when needed. This grant will be used to further the feasibility analysis of the ASR system, specifically to continue the work of the previous grant by refining the regional groundwater model, integrating data from regional hubs such as Castle Rock Centennial and East Cherry Creek Valley Water and Sanitation District, and assessing the legal and water quality concerns related to operation of the system. They will also simulate the proposed regional operations of that system, which I think is a key component. Staff again is recommending full funding of the request for $640,000.
Okay, are there any questions on this one? Hearing none. Okay, so that wraps up our water storage and supply category. Is there any of the grantors in or grantees in this room or online that wish to speak or make a comment about these? Okay, hearing none. I'll also entertain a motion for approval of the water storage and supply category. Thank you, Director Johnson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Wind. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the grantees.
Thank you, Matt. And I want to echo my thanks to all of the tech leads. We really have set up a good team. And so thank you to this board and CWCB leadership as well for getting such a great process in place that I could come in and lead this team. So last but not least, I am going to turn it over to the person who maybe has been doing grants at CWCB the longest. Chris Sturm for Watershed Health and Recreation.
Thanks, Janine. Chris Sturm, CWCB staff for the record. I have agenda items 6BB through MM. And we'll start off with the River's Edge West applicant, previously known as the Tamara's Coalition for the White River Riparian Restoration and Community Engagement Initiative. This is a stream restoration project that's primarily focused on invasive removal on the White River, invasives being tamarisk and Russian olive. There's also a community engagement and outreach component of this, as well as a small piece of it to actively restore the riparian area with what they're calling seed balls, which are soil clay balls mixed with native seeds to spur native restoration.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay.
Okay, next up, agenda item CC from the Jefferson Conservation District for the Bear Creek Wildfire Ready Action Plan. Wildfire Ready Action Plan, Andrea Harbin Monahan from the Watershed Section has been working for quite some time to get the Jefferson Conservation District ready for an application for a Wildfire Ready Action Plan. This is a high priority area that we've identified through our statewide susceptibility analysis. And they are following our template scope of work. This is a little bit of a unique grant proposal in that if approved, CWCB staff, myself, Andrea and Steve, and others will be working very closely with the Jefferson Conservation District and having some quality assurance, quality control oversight on the production of this plan.
Okay, are there any questions? No questions.
Next up, agenda item DD from the Boulder Watershed Collective for the Boulder Creek Headwaters Resiliency Project. The Boulder Watershed Collective was born out of the 4 Mile Creek Coalition, which the CWCB, with the help of Mr. Crane, who was in here earlier, created this in response to the 2013 flood. So it's nice to see these groups still viable over 10 years later. The Boulder Watershed Collective is working on a wildfire ready action plan. They're nearing completion. They're identifying projects to protect values at risk from debris flows and fluvial hazards. This large-scale headwater restoration project will address that as well as other objectives in habitat restoration and mine pile, tailings pile remediation.
Any questions on this one? No questions.
Okay, agenda item EE from the Arkansas River Watershed Collaborative, or ARWIC, for the Lower Arkansas Watershed Planning Initiative. This is a section of the Arkansas between Pueblo and John Martin Reservoir. We're recommending this one for partial funding. It's not often that we get watershed planning applications from the Eastern Plains. And this is an area that's certainly in need of it. There's a lot of sediment in this reach of the river, a lot of invasive species, and some pretty significant flood hazard concerns, especially in the north part of La Junta. That said, the application was pretty vague, and as proposed, we were having a tough time kind of getting a handle on how it was going to move forward successfully. So we worked with ARWIC and suggested, rather than funding 3 years of a full-time staffer, that we fund a facilitator to do the first couple of steps in what we recommend for watershed planning. And that's bring the stakeholders together and develop vision and objectives so that there's a clear understanding among that group on how they're going to proceed. And then the next step is to start that watershed assessment work, identify that through the visioning process. What is it that we want to understand? What information already exists? And bring that together to do a preliminary assessment that hopefully will give this group the capacity to move forward and ultimately implement projects that align with that vision and their vision and objectives.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none.
Okay, next item, also in the Arkansas Basin, agenda item FF from the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Greenway District for Frost Ranch Final Design. This is a stream restoration design project downstream of Fountain on Fountain Creek. that will get the group to a shovel-ready design for restoration to stabilize and restore the channel. If you're familiar with Fountain Creek, it can be incredibly unstable. Its hydrology is altered in that it receives a lot of storm water, which exacerbates those issues. And the Greenway District here has done a lot of planning in this realm to address those concerns and is now checking off the boxes for their priorities for design and implementation.
Any questions? Hearing none.
Okay, agenda item GG from Larimer County, the River Bluffs Open Space Habitat Restoration Project. It's not often that we see restoration projects that propose to realign a creek, in this case Fossil Creek, to its original channel location. It's been identified as a high priority in the Lower Poudre River Master Plan and has pretty robust stakeholder engagement. This will be for design and permitting to get them to the next phase of hopefully bids for construction.
Okay, is there any questions?
On this one? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, back to Fountain Creek, agenda item HH from the Pikes Peak Waterways for Stream Reach Plan on Monument Creek. This is a second phase of a project that was previously funded with water plan grant funds to increase the reach length of planning to restore the natural functions and overall riverscape of an additional 2.5 miles on Monument Creek. This is a group that heard us loud and clear in that we don't want to see applications for projects that aren't informed through planning. And they went back to their stakeholders and developed a strategy to develop a plan for Monument Creek that's going to lead to the identification of projects for the stream reach on Monument Creek.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none.
Okay, agenda item II from the Larimer Conservation District for collaborative Elkhorn Creek Restoration Project. This area is southeast of Red Feather Lakes in the Poudre River watershed. Aims to restore 3.6 miles of Elkhorn Creek and was identified through the Coalition of the Poudre River Watershed's Upper Poudre Resilience Master Plan. You're probably picking up on a common theme here. If it's in the Poudre watershed, we really like to see projects that are supported and planned through the Coalition for the Poudre River Watershed as they have a great purview of what's going on and have assembled a wonderful stakeholder group that does a lot of outreach.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this one? Hearing none. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item JJ, the Colorado Rio Grande Restoration Foundation. This is for phase 6 of the Rio Grande Bank Stabilization and Revegetation Project. This plan was completed in 2001. I hear a lot of folks that say, why do you require a plan before we can move forward with implementation? That's going to take us a lot of time. Well, here's a plan from 2001 that is still relevant. My predecessor, Brian Hyde, was involved in this. He'd be really proud to be hearing of this one. The project has engaged over 60 landowners in the course of implementing this plan on over 50 sites, and 17 miles of the Rio Grande stream bank has been stabilized. And so this project proposes to restore an additional 4,737 feet of the Rio Grande.
Okay. Any questions? No questions.
Okay, next up, agenda item KK. Thank you, Janine. This is from Boulder Mushroom LLC, Biological Soil Moisture Retention. The future is here, and we are inoculating forests with mushrooms. I am no mycologist, so bear with me. There's a lot to mushroom morphology. The mushroom itself, or the cap, is the fruit. The stalk and the roots is called the mycelium. The mycelium have the ability to help soil particles bond together better, which helps build better soil and retain soil moisture. It also releases chemicals that break down dead organic material. So the proposal here is to inoculate 200 acres of fire mitigated forest in collaboration with both the Jefferson and Larimer Conservation Districts, as well as a lot of our partners that are implementing wildfire ready action plans along the Front Range. We propose partial funding for $675,000, which is still pretty robust to achieve all the forest health treatments that they identified in their scope of work.
Hey, are there any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Is that funding going to allow them to achieve all the goals that are in their grant application?
There were two parts to the application. One was really focused on forest treatment, and that was the nexus with watershed health, with the watershed health category. The other piece was proposing to remove some of these materials and partner with the agricultural community to have that broadcast on their fields. And while I think that is a worthy pursuit, $850,000 request from a Boulder Mushroom LLC seemed to us like we should probably enter this stepwise and prove this up even more in the forest, where we're going to have the most value for soil health and fire mitigation. But if it is successful, and I do believe it will be successful, it has been done on smaller scales in the South Platte Basin successfully. So if we see large scale success, I believe their stakeholders, including the South Platte Basin Roundtable, would probably encourage them to come in and move forward with their other objectives.
Thanks.
Director Combs?
Yeah, you already hit on it. Chris, I would really like you to go back and ask them to come in and report or send a report. I really want to know how this works. Like on a scale this size, like really good qualification, because pretty innovative. I'd like to see how it works.
Agreed, Director Combs. You've heard me often say it's going to take a mosaic of different project types to impart true resiliency at watershed scales. And this is another tool in the toolbox, and I'm pretty optimistic about it, but we will be watching closely.
Director Haas?
Yeah, following on that, is there any science built into this to try to, are they doing the science? Are we doing any science to just track this and see what we learn?
Yes, Director Haas, that's what led to this request, was smaller scale implementation with a lot of monitoring. There will be monitoring as part of the scope of work on this as well, to inform the science behind it.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, no more questions on this one.
Okay, agenda item MM from the San Miguel Watershed Coalition, local group-ish. This is the Reed and Chatfield Ditch and Diversion Rehabilitation Project. Proposal here is to construct a rock ramp fish ladder through the diversion dam for fish passage, as well as a ditch lining project with a particularly leaky ditch now. The project's expected to conserve an estimated 285 acre feet of water and reduce diversions from the San Miguel by 30% in a reach that does have in-stream flows. I should note here that there's pretty robust, well, this is a big ask, first and foremost, and a lot of match associated with this one. That match was through some congressionally designated spending that is no longer available, but this group is optimistic about some other options at the federal level. So we're going to see how it plays out, but watch closely to make sure that they get the match if approved.
Okay, any questions on this one? Director Vasquez?
So how does it work if they only come up with part of the match? Do you then reduce, maintain this as a live project and reduce the amount that we provide?
Director Vasquez, there's no yes or no answer on that one. We would look closely at the tasks to see if there was something substantive that could still be achieved with the reduced amount. In this case, it being a construction project, that might be pretty tough. But we would keep that option open to discuss with them if the scope of work changed substantively. We of course would have to come back to the board for approval.
Thanks, and you answered my next question.
Any more comments or questions?
I just wanted to add one other thing on that is that we actually don't contract until the match funding is secured. So we want to have some assurances that something doesn't fall through last minute as best we can under the circumstances.
It just so happens we have a picture of the ditch with this slide.
All right.
Okay, last one, agenda item NN from the Dolores Watersheds Collaborative. I really appreciate the applicant and their stakeholders for being here today. This is for managing forests to conserve snow and soil moisture. I'm no expert in this realm, so forgive me as I read directly from the sheet here, but this project aims to generate hydrologically informed forest treatments in the Dolores watershed. It will leverage 3 years of existing science and data from snowtography stations to train a model, it's called Snow Palm, which will be used to predict snowmelt timing and volume. This model will be applied in collaboration with local stakeholders and the San Juan National Forest to design 2 hydrologically informed forest treatment scenarios, which will then be implemented and compared against a no treatment control and a treatment as usual. So this is real science here, y'all. The idea here is to treat in ponderosa pine forests. The concern is that treatment without science may not be achieving our objectives in retaining soil moisture and protecting water supplies and prolonging snow on the ground. This is science that's been done on smaller scales, and the applicants feel pretty confident about moving it to the next level at a larger scale. I also think that this is a type of strategy, once informed, once we get the results of it, if they point towards positive treatment scenarios that we can apply in other ponderosa forests around the entire state.
Okay, are there any comments or questions? Director Haas?
I just noticed that the Nature Conservancy is a funder on this one. I hadn't picked that up before, so should I be recusing myself?
Seems like if you didn't know about it, a disclosure is sufficient in this case.
Okay. Then I will disclose that the Nature Conservancy is a funder.
Okay, I will also disclose because I'm a board trustee for the Nature Conservancy. All right, so is there any more comments or questions? Okay, and we have finished this category for the watershed health and restoration. Are there any grantees in the room or online that would like to make comments?
Board, just want to appreciate your consideration. We've been struggling a lot in the Southwest. This is one of many prongs we've been experimenting with. Dolores, Ken Curtis, for the record, Dolores Water Conservancy. And we've been supportive for about a decade of the Dolores Watersheds Collaborative. And we look at all aspects of water from the first snowdrop through the soil now, trying to expand our knowledge to stretch our limited supplies, and currently work it all the way downstream through the fishery, all the way to the Colorado River. So we appreciate your consideration, and we're going to keep trying to use science to inform our management. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the watershed health and recreation category.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Vasquez, and second by Director Hawes. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I do want to make a comment because I know that there was a lot of applications and not every application could be approved or recommended by staff. And the staff, of course, has always had to make those hard decisions. So I do want to thank you for your discretion in filtering those through and bringing those to the board, and the board also having the discretion of making those approvals. So thank you, everyone, because we are doing what is best for Colorado and with the limited funds that we do have. So thank you. And
Madam Chair, I might
Good.
just provide some details before we close this afternoon on logistics. So board members and staff, we do have reservations for dinner this evening at 6:30. I'm gonna totally botch the name of the restaurant, Perbaco Cucina. Okay, well, it's in your logistics packet from Viola. It's on 505 Main Avenue. Everyone's invited, board and staff. That's at 6:30. Don't ask me to say it again, John. Perbaco Cucina, yeah. And then tomorrow morning, no breakfast will be provided here, so please either eat breakfast at your hotel or at another location. And we will see you in the morning at 8:30.
thank you. And we will recess until